Imposter syndrome can be a son of a bloodsucker for authors and creators. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to do a deep dive into imposter syndrome for creatives. So what it is and what it's not. Imposter syndrome is one of those things that almost everyone talks about, but not everyone fully understands. And I think it's important to clarify what it actually feels like, especially for authors and artists. So at its core, imposter syndrome is the feeling that you don't really deserve the success or recognition that you've achieved. It's like that quiet voice in the back of your mind telling you that you somehow tricked people into thinking you're talented, that you got lucky, that sooner or later someone is going to figure out that you don't belong there. It's basically that uninvited roommate in your head who doesn't pay rent but has very strong opinions. So it's not just self doubt. Creatives have always had self doubt. Imposter syndrome is much deeper than that. It's going to take us a few weeks to get through this. So it's the belief that your achievements aren't valid and that your place in the industry or creative space is temporary. It shows up in small, familiar thoughts. You might, for instance, finish a book, sell a story, sign a contract, or release artwork that people genuinely love. And instead of feeling proud, your first reaction is, okay, but can I do it again? Will I be able to achieve that same level again? Or they probably won't like the next one. Or even worse, they don't realize how much I suck. And suddenly your brain becomes a full-time critic with zero qualifications. Before we continue, my name is Joe Mynhardt. I am the publisher, CEO, founder of Crystal Lake Publishing over there. And our motto slogan is where stories come alive. But my new favorite one that we're using in ad campaigns is scaring the shit out of people since 2012. Now back to imposter syndrome. Another really common part of imposter syndrome is what I call moving the goalposts. So you convince yourself that once you hit that certain milestone, you'll finally feel legitimate. Maybe it's getting published, maybe it's winning an award, maybe it's selling a certain number of copies. But when you get there, the feeling doesn't disappear. The target just moves. Suddenly, legitimacy lives at the next achievement instead. And most of the time, the more successful you are, the stronger the feelings of imposter syndrome will become. It's never static, it's always moving. That cycle can go on for years if you allow it. And something else that's important to understand is that imposter syndrome doesn't mean you lack any skill. In fact, it often shows up in people who care deeply about their craft, people who are self-aware, people who are constantly trying to improve. The more you grow creatively, the more you become aware of how much there is still to learn. And that awareness can easily turn into doubt if you're not careful. For authors and artists, it can be especially intense because our work is so personal to us. You're not just presenting a product, you're presenting part of who you are, your imagination, your voice, your emotional perspective, your heart. So when someone critiques your work, it can feel like they're critiquing you as a person. That makes imposter syndrome feel much louder, more convincing, and harder to ignore. The important thing to remember is that imposter syndrome isn't a diagnosis and it's not a sign that you are failing. It's just a pattern of thinking. It's a voice that tries to rewrite your accomplishments as accidents. And the more you recognize that pattern, the easier it becomes to separate the voice from reality. Because the truth is, if you've created something that connects with people, that work exists. That impact is real. And imposter syndrome doesn't get to erase that, no matter how convincing it sounds. Stay tuned for the next installment or check the linked videos in case it's already live. And if imposter syndrome has ever whispered nonsense into your ear, hit that like button so the algorithm knows you're not alone.